Hi everyone. This is the introductory PowerPoint for Animal Farm. As I go through this, feel free to fill in the fill-in notes as I go, because everything that is shown on the slides will definitely correspond to things that you have to fill in. So, Animal Farm, like I've mentioned before, is what's called an allegory. So, on one level, it can be interpreted as just a plain story about animals and them living out their lives on farm. And on the other hand, it can be seen as a symbolic story for something greater. Okay, and that's what makes it an allegory. So as you look at the political cartoon here on the opening slide, this is really the message that comes up over and over again throughout the novel. So you have a pig on there writing, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. We'll talk about that at length as we go. All right. So make sure you have the fill-in note sheet in front of you, and we'll get going here. So, like I mentioned, this is an allegory. So the book is meant to be read on a symbolic level. So if you just take it as a story about pigs and horses and dogs and so on and so forth, you're really going to miss the point. So the animal characters represent and symbolize historical counterparts. So specifically people, historic figures who were involved in the Russian Revolution. Okay, so it can also be viewed as a fable. Okay, so fables are stories where animals represent humans. Okay, and so those are also meant to teach a lesson. They have a moral. There's a point. There's something that's meant to be learned from the story, and so the moral that's taught throughout the book is that all animals and people are not exactly the same. Okay, at least that's the viewpoint of some of the characters in the book. All right. Now, so you can also look at this as a form of satire. So satire is a type of writing that's going to poke fun at and mock real life events. So think of like TV shows like Saturday Night Live. That's all satire. And so the book makes fun of human flaws, and it also points out political flaws, specifically the flaws of the Soviet Union. And finally, it also proves that utopia, or a perfect world, a perfect society, a perfect living situation, is impossible, and that all people are not exactly equal, all situations are not equal. All right. Now, so a little bit about the author. So the author is George Orwell. He was born in England in 1903. His real name is Eric Blair. So he comes from a wealthy background, but chooses a different lifestyle than his predecessors and his family. So he worked as a cop, dishwasher, teacher, etc. And through those experiences, he wrote about them. Okay, so he leaves England in 1936 to fight against fascism. Excuse me. In the Spanish Civil War, and eventually ends up in France and makes his way back to England. So he is a noteworthy, well-known political novelist and essayist. So he takes a stand on a lot of political issues and critiques politics. So he, in his time, would be known as a socialist. And so he's known for two very famous novels that address political issues, one being Animal Farm, which we're going to read, and then 1984. Okay, so his reasons for writing Animal Farm are as follows. So he was not impressed by Soviet policies during the 20s and 30s and 40s. He found the Communist Party in the Soviet Union cruel and hypocritical, and he viewed their leader, Joseph Stalin, as a dictator. So we talked about dictatorships and things like that with Knight when we read Knight, and we're going to kind of take it in a different direction as we read this. And so the public, or he thinks that the public, especially in the Soviet Union, was blind to Stalin's evil nature, and I would agree. Okay. Now, there's also controversy surrounding the book. So it was rejected by publishers during the World War II, which was a controversial time. The Soviets were at war with Germany, excuse me, and are enemies of England. And so, book publishers didn't want Orwell putting out a book out there that was critical of an ally of England's. Okay. However, it's finally published in August of 1945, which is ironic because that's the end of World War II, and it sold 250,000 copies. All right. So let's get into a little bit of the background of communism here, and I'm going to go a little quickly here because I know some of you cover this stuff in your presentations. So Soviet communism, here's the beginning of it. So Karl Marx is the father of communism. He believes that no one citizen should possess more than another. So you have so he believes in equal distribution of wealth. And in a capitalist society, there's obviously an unequal distribution of wealth. You have people who have more than others. So other important leaders in the early days of the Soviet Union, Vladimir Lenin is the first leader of the Soviet Union. He follows in Marx's footsteps and wants to implement many of the views that Marx advocates for. Other leaders that you'll see are Leon Trotsky and Joseph Stalin. So when Lenin dies, Trotsky and Stalin are the ones who are going to compete for power, and you'll see that power struggle in Animal Farm as well. Now, so this is just a simple chart comparing and contrasting the two men. So Trotsky is a brilliant speaker and writer, is really kind of a book, an ideas guy, a visionary, and he wants to transform Russia into an industrial powerhouse. So his whole thing is intellectual in thinking, using your mind. Stalin really rules or wants to rule through power. And so he has a quick mind, speaks well, focuses on administrative duties and getting things done, and works to create bonds with powerful and important men. So he's also an ambitious leader. Okay, so you can see the difference between the two. One is more of a visionary and wanting things to be really good. Stalin is all about getting things done. Okay, so during the 25 years of Stalin's reign, so he wins out in the end, he expels Trotsky, his rival, and ultimately gains all the power. And so he maintains his power through fear and terror. And so he wants the people to be afraid of him, and that's how he holds on to the keys to the car, so to speak. So he increases the size of Russia's internal police force. Many of those are used as spies. He enhances and increases the prison system, and his prisons were not a place you would want to be. People are forced to confess to crimes that they didn't necessarily, commit. And during those 25 years, between 2 and 7 million people are killed by his government. Okay. Now, so I'm not going to go through all of these connections. This is a chart that you'll want to go back and reference at some point, and I will certainly reference these at some point. So you see on the left-hand side here, all of these characters are characters within the story itself. These on the right-hand side are their historical counterparts. So these are all real people and ideas. These are the characters that represents those real people and ideas in the book. All right. Now, so the structure of the novel, I'll go through this fairly swiftly. The setting is a manor farm in England. It serves as kind of a miniature universe, so a smaller microcosm of the world in a way. The characters are flat and static. They're not really going to change much throughout the story. And the point of view is third person omniscient. So our narrator is one from the outside looking in, but they know everything, including the thoughts of individual characters. Now, there's three climaxes throughout the story. One is Snowball's expulsion. Two is the slaughter in the barn. Three is Boxer's betrayal. This won't make any sense to you right now, but once we get into it, these will make a lot more sense as to what they are. Now, so some themes and conflict in the story. There's a lot. So you have humanity versus society. So basically the individual versus what the larger group is telling you. People versus their own nature. The corrupting nature of power. So how power corrupts, or if it does. The idea of revolution or revolting against a power that's keeping you down. Equality and inequality, whether that's wealth or in social class. Betrayal, illusion versus reality, inhumanity, and then totalitarianism, which is dictatorship. Now, I'm sorry, there's another one, anti-utopian. So the anti-utopianism is also a theme. So the fact that there can never be like a perfect society. All right. So all of these ideas and themes are themes and conflicts are ones that are in play throughout the story. Make sure you make a note of these somewhere, and that's it. So make sure that you're getting this done. Make sure you turn this in, and we will see you next class.